Today, we're going to talk about Investing 101. Do you hear that and think, oh, that sounds amazing. I want to join and listen. Or does it sound like, oh, I don't want to hear about that at all. I'm not interested. Well, I hope you're intrigued because I have a fabulous guest and her name is Tasia J. And she really understands investing. She understands how to make it simple and how to help women take the next step. She has her own company, Graceful Investor, and you can find it at gracefulinvestor.com. And I know you're going to love our conversation. So thanks for being here. Welcome back to the Generous Girl podcast. I am joined in the studio with Tasia J, and she is the founder of the company called Graceful Investor. And what I love about her focus is she wants to help empower and educate women and encourage women to take the next step on their own financial journey and their own investment journey. So in terms of a guest for the Generous Girl podcast, she's a perfect example of a woman living with the knowledge that she's learned on her own. Some things easy because she's very financially minded, but some things were struggle, and she's really learned and worked hard to have the knowledge that she has, but she wants to share it with others. She wants each of you listeners to take the next step. So I know as we talk about this whole concept of Investing 101, like the basics, you're going to be so glad you joined. So welcome to Tasia.
Thank you so much for having me, Kim. Everything you just said is wonderful. And I was sharing with you earlier that I really think that what you're doing is very aligned for the same type of woman that I get to meet with. And I think that there's a lot that we have in common.
I agree. And I think we're both motivated by the same thing. And that is, it gives both of us a lot of joy when we see women taking the next step. And I talk about this podcast helping to empower, educate, and equip a woman. And I'm helping to do that by inspirational stories and then also by practical tips of what is a donor advised fund? Do you have a will? Do you have a trust? So today, I really do want to focus more on the practical side of things. We've had a financial advisor recently on the show, Bethany Freimeyer. If you haven't heard her episode, she's with Blue Trust. So I encourage you to go back and listen to Bethany. She's a certified financial planner. And Tasia has taken a number of courses within the MBA program, but she's also very, you've learned on the job. You've had a CFO that you worked with closely who taught you so much, and you learned how to log into bank accounts and look at spreadsheets and understand your whole financial picture. So let's talk about kind of the three pillars to your company and why you're doing what you're doing with your company called Faithful Investor. Let's start there.
Yes. So thank you so much for that. So Graceful Investor was really born almost out of a love letter to myself, what I wish existed to kind of walk me through everything that I think that a woman should want to know and be excited to be aware of about her own money. And so the three pillars that we really go over with are, one, getting your financial house in order. So have you logged into bank accounts before? Do you have a household budget? And if you do, are you involved in tracking it? And the second pillar is, how do you manage your investments? So this is retirement. This is your personal investing portfolio, if you have one. This is everything that you would kind of sit down and talk to a financial advisor about. That also includes, sometimes you might be a quiet, passive participant in those meetings and letting them lead or letting your partner lead. And we really work on, how do you get a little bit more confident, learn a few questions to ask, and really start feeling like you are in charge of that relationship. And the third and final pillar is private investments. So this is investing into companies directly. This is looking at funds that are raising large dollar amounts with a lot of individual investors. This is how do you find things to invest in and how comfortable are you doing that type of investment? So those are kind of the three pillars. Definitely want to start over here with, if you don't know what's going on within your own household financially, you probably shouldn't be over here making an investment into a startup that somebody asked you to participate in.
So let's do a little like devil's advocate role playing here. So what if I said, and first of all, let me apologize for calling your company the wrong name. It is Graceful Investor. So thank you. I love that name. But what if I'm happily married and my husband does everything and I trust him implicitly and I don't log in? So what would you say to that woman?
Okay, I love this question. So I've been a stay-at-home mom for 13 years, and I left the professional field to be able to do that. And I loved it and cherished that role. I was really encouraged actually by scripture, that especially Proverbs 31, where it talks about what a good woman looks like. And it doesn't say anything other than she needs to be a hard worker in the home, and that her hands are weaving and making garments that are then sold in the market. She looks over her field and it produces crops, right? So this is definitely a woman who is producing and really leading well, not just her family. And you can do that very well as a stay-at-home mom and not necessarily earn an income. However, it is important to understand what is going on financially, especially if you are a stay-at-home partner in some way, or if you are recently retired and you are now looking at that next phase of life, and it might be time to step into it and really start looking at things. So yes, I really, really love that question.
I think that it's sometimes easier to not take the time, right? Especially if you're married and you have a spouse who's taking care of that. But I've had a few people on the show who suddenly found themselves as widows and didn't know where they were at with their finances. So we do talk about the great wealth transfer, and we talk about more money right now is being transferred to women than in the history of the world, basically. We don't really understand why God has this all ordained and set up the way it is, in a wonderful way, that the women will be inheriting this wealth. But I do think what you're doing is so important, because I think whether we have the spouse who takes care of everything, or whether you're at the other end of the spectrum where you either have to take care of everything or you love to take care of everything, you're gifted at doing it, I think it's super important that we're educated and aware and informed. And with tech today, we're able, as a stay-at-home mom, home businesses, as you said, the example in scripture, we have so many opportunities that didn't used to be there, especially for women. And I want to encourage the listener to not be afraid. And if you're hearing Tasia's story and you're hearing about what she's trying to do, maybe then your next step after this podcast is super basic. Maybe because all of us will find ourselves on a different part of the continuum. But I guess the big question is, do you already have a financial advisor? If you don't have one, please find one. And I'd like to ask you that question. What would you look for in a financial advisor? Because sometimes what I hear from people is, I don't have enough money to get a financial advisor. So how would you address that topic?
Well, that is a great question. Okay, so some of us are already in a relationship with an advisor, and we want to evaluate how are they paid, how their fees are structured, and be confident around asking questions about that. The financial industry is very opaque on this. You log into your account. This is my return that I've earned, and things are great. And you're not physically writing a check to the advisor. They're just somehow magically getting paid.
Right.
And you're not going to see the amount taken out of your accounts. So it's really important to ask, how are your fees structured? Most of them are based on assets under management, AUM. So it's probably a 2% every year fee based on how much you're investing under their guidance. And then the larger that your account balance goes, the lower the fees are percentage wise. But it still is a noticeable amount that most people aren't aware of. So that's the first thing I would ask is, how are you compensated? The second thing I would ask is, how expensive are the choices that you're making for me? I see you're putting me in this mutual fund and that one. How much does it cost for that fund?
For those fees.
That can be another 1.5% on top of their 2%. So if your goal is to track the stock market, sometimes the fees will eat away at what your portfolio is capable of doing. So I would say those two are really important questions. And then the third question is, how do you feel about educating me along the way? And lots of advisors will say, oh, of course, I'm happy to. But you really have to get into with yourself, do I feel safe being vulnerable with this person? Do I feel comfortable saying, gosh, I've got a lot of hesitation here. I'm not even sure where to begin, and really be vulnerable in not knowing what you need to know. And if you don't feel like you can kind of confide in that person and they're more just going to shove a couple things across the desk at you and say, well, this is what this fund is. This is what this fund is. This is what this fund is. That might not be the best educator that you want. Those are kind of my top three of what questions should you ask, but also you need to be asking yourself, is this somebody that I want? I call it on your board of advisors.
That's right. That's right.
They are going to work for you, not you coming in and, oh gosh, I should just believe everything that they're saying because they know so much more than I do.
Right. And be intimidated.
We really want to work to flip how a woman feels about that relationship.
Yes, I think that's very well said. And also, I'm aware of advisors who charge a flat amount also. So if you're going to work with them, so do you want to speak to that as well?
Yes. Okay. So that actually is what quite a lot of women are moving towards, leaving that traditional assets under management. I'm going to charge you 1% every year to, I'm going to do a flat fee advisory rate. There's one right now that I work with, and it's $12,000 a year, and it comes out of your portfolio. So you really want to look at how much is the percentage and dollar amount leaving my account versus a flat fee. There's other flat fee advisors that say, I'll charge you by the hour. We'll get you all set. And if you need me, call me. And that's kind of it. And that could be a couple $100 an hour. So really, there's three types of relationships that you can be paying for. And a lot of people don't know about the flat fee by the hour and the flat fee annual.
That's right. I've heard of it as low as $5,000 also. So it's a spectrum. It's a range.
It sure is. Yes.
And I had a gal on the podcast recently, Diana Shaw, and she is using AI to do a company geared at finances. It's called Opto. And it's more of the, like when you're addressing the emotional side of money, she's trying to use AI to help a couple understand, like, okay, we're in a conflict. Why are we having this discussion right now? And then getting AI to kind of help unpack those layers to get at the mindset, the money mindset that's behind that discussion. And then they'll also have an area where you can, be connected with a financial advisor. So there are so many more ways now in today's world, especially for women, that we can be equipped. And I'm part of my work is with Women Doing Well. And we've just done this recent study, and it's so informative when you look back at when did women have access to credit? When did women have access to a mortgage? And it really wasn't that long ago when that started. And now in today's world, it's just the sky is the limit. And it's a wonderful time. If you have daughters and you're listening, I think they're already, especially like my kids, late 20s, early 30s, they already have so many tools to help them be knowledgeable. And you have so many other services online you can join. So it's wonderful to see the growth in this area and to see that women are able to be the person in the household who complements their spouse if they're married, that bring different gifts to the table, but together in your marriage, as you're looking at what are we trying to do financially? What is God asking us to save, to give, to, spend, all of that?
Yes. One of the things that you had mentioned earlier, and I'd like to circle back to it, is the wealth transfer.
Yes.
And what I'd really like for women to understand is that point of transfer is not going to be a time where you are happy and sharp and focused. You will be grieving in some way, in some capacity, either the death of a parent or the death of your spouse. So if you are not involved in the finances in your household, and then you have a major life event like that, your brain for at least a year is really not going to be equipped to be firing on all cylinders about major financial decisions. So as exciting as it is to talk about the great wealth transfer, we as women cannot sit back and say, oh, I'll be fine. My parents are leaving me a lot of money and everything's going to be taken care of. Well, you need to be ready to receive it and be responsible with it. And the only way to do that is to get your systems in place and really understand what's going on in your household. If your spouse passes away, I do work with widows. Or if you are a woman in her 20s or 30s and, just starting out in your professional career or life inside of a home environment, and there's wealth coming your way as well. You need to have your foundation built because there are going to be a lot of decisions that come with a wealth transfer. And it can feel very overwhelming and very, very tempting to just do what an advisor says that you may never have even met before. Maybe that was somebody else's advisor and okay, well, that's their wishes and okay, got it. And then they're out of the picture and now you have a lot of responsibility.
Right.
But the more equipped you are before that life event, the better, because you're going to be able to walk in there and say, I've already talked to my parents. I understand how everything's structured. I understand where it is, what the goals are, and I'm going to continue that on.
Add the passwords, all of that.
It's so important to do that with your spouse. Yes. So how do you log into your bank accounts as a family? Very important. And also, have you made a list and had conversations with your own adult children about preparing them, right? It's not just about what are we going to be receiving and responsible for. It's about how do we equip the next generation to receive as well. So I just really want to encourage women that you're going to have to be in charge of this at some point. And you can either choose to do it on your time, building your confidence along the way, or you can do it in kind of a time of grieving and possible crisis. So I just want to gently encourage, I choose the first option.
Right. And you have a daughter and you have a son. And so even looking at your younger kids' ages, like the preteen ages, and then how do we equip that generation to
Yes, I do. So I've worked with some nonprofits around how do you teach adolescents about money. And I definitely do that in my household, which is they know about 5 areas of spending for our household. And they get out my phone. They look at how much we've spent that much and how much is left. And they're
I
very,
love that.
very excited about it. So they're 9 and 12 years old and they understand it. So they track gas for the car, groceries,
great.
Restaurant, Amazon purchases, because clearly we do a lot of purchasing there. And then they have a kid budget. So
great.
They have to kind of figure it out between themselves. If somebody wants to spend more than half, can I take some from the kid budget that, can you spend less this month? And that's fun stuff that they want to do. That's clothes, that's toys, that's video games. It all comes out of that line item. So they very much are aware and they love tracking it. And if there's money left over, we can roll it into the next month.
What if you're short on gas at you're 3 weeks into your month? What do they do?
Right now that is happening. Our gas prices are very inflated.
So high. Yeah.
So I ask them, which category out of those 5 should we spend less on? And they always choose restaurants. They say, we'll just cook at home. We don't need to have restaurants. So I think what that is doing, and I would encourage parents to do this as well, is it's making budget not be the bad word in the house.
That's right.
It's not in the budget.
Right.
It's feeling good about, man, we just nailed our budget this month. Look at us. And we did it as a family. And I think that those 5 categories are not anxiety producing, right? We don't want children to be worried about, well, how much is our car payment and how much is our house payment? And if I spend too much on a toy, will we not be able to pay for those things? No, we're going to focus them only on things that they comprehend, that they're asking purchases in. And really, this is laying the groundwork for them to run their own households one day in a really happy, healthy way.
It's so beautiful. I love that practical tip. What about generosity? How do you teach your children about giving and tithing?
Wonderful question. I give 10% every year of the household budget, at least. And I do it along the year. I don't wait till the end to see how much is left over. I'm doing it consistently. And my children are involved in a lot of those giving decisions. So I get requests for funding from a variety of types of nonprofits. And so I will talk with them about it. What do we think about this group? I've volunteered with it before. I'll share my experience. Sometimes they'll say, I don't know, that doesn't really go with what we care about. And they do get to come to different fundraising events with me. They'll decide how much the donations are. They'll decide how to make online contributions. And in our case, I talk about, we really, really, really want to care about these 5 areas of spending because we've got a 6th area of giving to others. And the more responsible we are over here, the better we are at being able to give with the other money over here. So instead of, why can't I have that extra toy? And it's not fair. And all these other kids get that, or whatever a 3rd grader feels like saying. It's, well, we are going to be good stewards of this money because what we really need to be worried about is giving to others. And so it's all woven together.
That's lovely to hear. And again, I love how you're equipping this next generation as well as women. And then you mentioned people who are the age of your mom. Let's talk about the other end of the spectrum. Tell us how you're helping people who've already raised their kids, maybe their grandparents.
Yes. So think kind of 60s and 70s, you've entered retirement, you are, exhausted usually. And the first few years, you're getting used to a new normal. You're getting used to a new rhythm of life in general. And you might have a partner that's still working. So you're trying to fill up your own time with good things that feel productive, but you're still learning and growing. Or, you might be single at that point. And what do I do now? And that is usually a time where, because you don't have a regular paycheck coming in, you suddenly become a lot more aware of, okay, now I'm living off of retirement savings. And now it's time to oh, maybe figure out how much I actually do spend in a year and can I increase it or decrease it? Right. So there's a whole new level of freedom and decision making that wasn't there when you were receiving a consistent paycheck. So there's a lot of emotions that go along with that as well. Right. And the first part is telling yourself, I am smart enough to do this. And
I can do hard things.
It's time. It's time for me to step into it. Look at all that I've accomplished in my career. And now it's just time to spend 10% of that brain power on worrying about my finances. And the other 90% is about living the best life that I can design and loving on my family and traveling and all these wonderful things.
Well, I love also, let's go back to your third pillar of the private investor.
Yes.
And I want to do a shout out to that section, to the National Christian Foundation of California, who is one of our generous sponsors for the show. And if you're not familiar with the National Christian Foundation of California, we help people set up giving funds, and that is a donor advised fund, and it's like a charitable checking account. So the 10% you're mentioning, all of that tithing, giving, and above that can all be done through the donor advised fund.
Yes, let's talk about that.
Okay. And the other piece of that puzzle that the National Christian Foundation does such a good job in is if somebody's going to be selling a property, selling a business, and they choose to be generous and gift a portion of that property or business or the entire thing to the National Christian Foundation, it's often a very tax efficient strategy where it leaves them with so much more money to give and grant out to charities, and actually more money for their family and less is required in taxes. So we love helping people in that area because we have a very generous tax code, and the government says if you want to be generous to charity, we're going to allow you to do that and your taxes won't be as much. So it's such a fun space to get to work in because people come to us as they're already generous, and we're just the vehicle, the conduit, the catalyst that's kind of helping move the funds from here to there. And the way you and I met was through the other work that I do, which is with the Impact Foundation, an organization that came out of the National Christian Foundation 11 years ago. And that takes those same dollars in the donor advised fund, and you can use that for impact investing. And so we're able to allow people to come in at a much smaller amount and still a substantial piece of an investment, $25,000, but we can collectively bring those investors all together, and we show up as one line on the cap table as Impact Foundation, and it allows people to invest those charitable dollars in their donor advised fund into these private companies that normally, if you're not an accredited investor, you wouldn't be able to qualify for at the levels that they require. So I'd love to hear any of your thoughts in that category of private investments and then using a donor advised fund for impact investments.
Yes. Okay. So you just covered a lot of ground. So
I know. I'm watching the clock going, we don't have much time left. We got to get it all. Maybe we'll need to do a part two at another point.
Absolutely. I would love to do that. Okay. So one of the things that I would really like women to understand about charitable giving, there's kind of 3 paths you can take, and I've done all of them. 1, you're writing a check or using your credit card directly to the nonprofit, and it's just straight through. Second one is opening up a donor advised fund, and you make all of your gifts out of that. So a lot of organizations have an app on the phone that you can log into. It pulls up your account, how much you have in there to give, because you've put cash in it. And when you put the cash in there, that's when you get the tax write-off, not when you make the gift to the charity.
That's right. Not when it's deployed.
That's a really good thing to remember because if you know in your head, okay, I'm going to give away $10,000 a year to charities. You can just put it right into a donor advised fund, and then it's there whenever you feel like making a gift. So you pull up the app, you type in the search bar, the name of the charity, it'll pop up, and you say, make a gift, this dollar amount, it's finished. The third way to do it is to still use a donor advised fund and the third way that's kind of accessible to a lot of women is to donate stocks that you have in your investment portfolio. Now, why would we want to do that? We want to do that because when you have a stock and it goes up in value, yay, we made a profit. Well, when you sell it to get the money out, the IRS says, okay, that counts as income, and I want a percentage of that. I want 20% of that for long-term gains. I would rather say, you know what? I'm going to put that money into a donor advised fund.
That's right.
Now it's a charitable deduction. The government doesn't take any 20% of the gain, and my money can do more good over here. The really neat concept that Kim is talking about is impact investing within the donor advised fund. So there's cash sitting there. You can gift it out, or you can let it sit in there for a while, and you can choose to make an investment in a private company. Why would we want to do that? We would want to do that because it might be able to grow even more. It'll take possibly 5 years, 7 years to do that. But you can go from 10 grand into 20 grand or 30 grand, more than just taking money out of a checking account or putting cash into your donor advised fund. How do we want to support a company that's doing something that we think will impact others? And when a payout comes, hopefully at the end, you have more money to give away. So I am loving the type of investing in a donor advised fund with a group like Impact Foundation, because it allows you to, maybe make a more risky investment in a company, but you know that you're doing good along the way for that company. So I am really enjoying what Kim has taught at the table, which is her program that she helps lead. And she educated women like me about this type of private investing. So I am a very big fan.
Well, it was fun, so fun to have you in the program that we did in our cohort earlier this year in January. And I'm glad that you emphasized that piece of allowing it to grow, because we can loan those dollars. Let's just say we want to loan $30,000 to a company. As it's paid back to us over exactly like you said, the 5 to 7 years, we're getting any payments and interest. And so that original investment is growing. And sometimes people are listening on the show and they have a private foundation, and maybe they don't want to ever sunset that foundation. If they grant out the funds and give them all away, then there won't be any more funds to give out. So we're seeing this trend of granting's happening. It's always going to happen with our churches, missionaries we support, local nonprofits. But then this investing side, using those same dollars and being able to invest. And yes, there's risk and maybe it won't be paid back, but we're doing good. As you said, we're looking for 3 components of impact: social, spiritual, and economic. And for me, I've already given my money into my donor advised fund. And so I really want to give that person in Uganda a chance with those dollars. I would love, love, love for them to pay me back with every penny of interest. But at the same time, if they don't, I still feel good about this investment that I made.
Correct. And also, when there are profits, it's completely protected from ever paying taxes on those profits.
That's right. That's right.
If you are doing a private investment into a company or a fund, just normally, outside of that, just as yourself, as an investor, the government's going to take 20%, whether you like it or not. So by putting it into a donor advised fund first and then making that investment, if the company qualifies, to me, I just see so much upside, because the goal of managing our money well is to live well, yes, but it's to help others. And so to me, the more that I can maintain the capital and not have to pay taxes on it, the more people I can help. So yes, you can go out and make your money and donate a portion of it, but a donor advised fund, impact investment, you can make money within that too and not have to pay the IRS anything.
No, because the IRS, again, is rewarding us for being charitable. And
Yes.
there are other countries where you don't have those kind of deductions and you don't have those kind of rewards. So I love that that is available in our country. And one last thing before we wrap up is the stock purchasing is so important. We have this phrase like friends don't let their friends give cash. So the reason being is just like you talked about, you buy the share at a low price and now it's really risen in value. So when you gift those shares to the National Christian Foundation and we turn around and sell them the next day, all of that growth is going into your donor advised fund for you to be able to give charitably. But what people then do, the next step of that, like if you're looking at a circle and this wheel of investing, is they're asking their advisor to repurchase those shares now at the higher amount and beginning to accumulate for their next time that they're going to, gift these shares, so that they're not going to have that low tax cost basis in their account, that it's going to be growing and getting higher so that they will not have that huge spread of those long-term capital gains.
And what you're talking about is on the personal portfolio side. Anytime that you're pulling money out of it in stocks that have gained value and dumping it into your donor advised fund, you have a chance to backfill what you just took out with cash from your own account, buy the stock, however much it is today, and then it'll start growing from there. So that when you retire and you want to sell that stock and live off of that, you're not selling the stock that you bought 5 years ago at a very low price. You're selling the stock that you bought last year, and it's only growing a little bit, and you only owe 20% on that itty bitty bit, right?
Exactly.
So I think that for any woman who is nearing retirement and still wanting to continue to be or start to be charitable, a donor advised fund really is a great way of, let's look at my portfolio and take a little bit out and put it into a donor advised fund and let it keep growing. Because if your goal really is to do maximum impact with your dollars, let's make sure that your dollars are safe and protected.
Yes. Oh, it's been so fun to have this conversation. And I hope everybody is as encouraged as I know you and I both are, just with this topic and just what is possible.
Yes. And anything that I can do to just encourage women and say, listen, you were so smart when you were a little girl. You were really good at math. You were probably better than the boys in your class. And that intelligence is still there. And just learning is what I love to talk about. And we're all learning, right?
We are all learning.
But it doesn't happen if you're silent and passive. It happens in community, having real conversations with women that you know and women that you come across about just asking, what are you doing that's working really well? What's a tip I can learn from you?
And I think that advice helps us when you had referenced the Proverbs 31 woman earlier. And in scripture, it talks about how she laughs at the future, doesn't fear the future. And I think this topic of taking the steps so we're not afraid, we're not intimidated, is all a part of that, to give us the confidence, obviously in our provider who provides everything, but in our brains that he's given us too, to learn more and take the next step. Okay, so the last 3 questions: your favorite Bible verse, current book you love that you're reading, and a recent bargain.
Okay. Well, I'll start with recent bargain because it just happened yesterday. So I really love nice clothes and shopping and pretty things. Okay. So, but I also know that in the world of retail, things will get marked down eventually. So I like to go into Saks Fifth Avenue's shopping app, give brand new things a heart, and then I wait for them to go on sale. So yesterday I got 3 pieces for 75% off that I've been waiting on, and I'm so excited about it.
That's fabulous.
I tried it on in the store and then I just wait.
And then you just wait, right? And you're absolutely right. I've heard the best time to buy clothes is end of January and then in July as the seasons. They're always ahead of seasons. So.
Well, we're not in there, but somehow I got a great
Somehow you did.
The book that I'm reading right now is Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before? I'm actually getting to read it with a group of women on a book club virtual group that I lead, and we go through section by section, and it's written by a female British psychologist, and it's what she wishes people knew about principles of therapy if they don't have thousands of dollars to spend on therapy. So she breaks it down very easy. So there's a section on anxiety, there's a section on grief, and it's what do you do if you're struggling with this yourself, and how to support those that you love in your family if they're struggling with it. So it's a really, really good book, and she's got a really fun accent. She's my age, and if you listen to it on audio, she's great. She's very engaging. She tells very fun stories. And then probably my favorite Bible verse, it fluctuates over the years based on what I'm facing, but I have really, really been drawn the last 2 years to the Lord's Prayer, because this is where Jesus, he said it twice, one to teach his disciples how to pray, and then one to teach a very large crowd how to pray. And so I just, grew up hearing it, kind of rattled it off in church, didn't really get it. I definitely didn't know that it was spoken by Jesus as instructions of how to pray. And now I just find so much comfort in each line, and especially the part about give us each day our daily bread. Just have God just get me through this day. Just have me do the next right step. I don't need to worry about huge, overwhelming things and future. Just today, give me what I need, Lord.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Tasia, for being on the show. And they can find you at your website, Graceful Investor. Is that .com? Clarifying?
It is, yes.
Okay, gracefulinvestor.com. And I know you will be offering free monthly book clubs for people to join. And then also paid for over Zoom, and then also a paid for program that they can sign up for. So I encourage you to visit Tasia's website. It's been a real honor to have you on the show, and I wish you the very, very best.
And you as well. Thank you so much, Kim.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us today on the Generous Girl podcast. We're so glad that you're here. And if you know of someone that you think needs to be a guest on this podcast, please reach out to us. New episodes are released every other week, and you can follow us on YouTube and on all platforms. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.